So I read a lot in the second half of the month, primarily manga. Hello friends, my name is Shayla and today I am here to wrap up my reading month for the month of July for you. I am doing this a little bit before the end of July because Booktubeathon starts in a matter of hours and I'm not going to include Booktubeathon in my July wrap up. I will do a separate wrap up for Booktubeathon. So I wanted to talk to you about the things that I did read in the second half of the month of July. If you want to know what I read in the first half of the month, I will leave that linked for you so you can go ahead and check that out. So I will leave the manga to the end. I will talk about the books that I read as well because most of you come here for the books. Some come for the manga, but mostly the books. I will leave a timestamp where the manga starts if you are here just for the manga. So the first book we're going to talk about is Bellwether by Susanna Kersley. This is a book that I received as an e-arc from NetGalley. This is a historical fiction romance story in which we follow two timelines. We follow present day and then we follow a storyline in the early, I don't remember the time frame exactly, but it's the French-Indian War. But I found this to be very intriguing. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I feel like the characters were very fleshed out for how short the novel was, and I felt like the storyline was compelling enough to keep me going. I did like bouncing back and forth between the two timelines so that things didn't drag in either, and I really thought that the modern day storyline added enough to the historical storyline that you didn't end up feeling like you were bored in either timeline. Does that make sense? Anyways, so essentially we follow Charlie, who's a museum curator in a small town, kind of tracking down the town ghost story. And so you get the actual history of the town ghost story and then the actual present day timeline Charlie story. And it's really intriguing. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I always leave my Goodreads linked down below. It's a little more thorough there, and I will be doing an individual review for this as well after Booktubeathon, so look forward to that if you want more details on this particular novel. Next up is a book that was mentioned in my previous video, which again will always be linked, and that is Fox by Nadine Brands. Now initially I DNF'd this book. After going and reading more of the Goodreads reviews, I may have been a little harsh in that decision. I'm not 100% sure. So if you've read this and you loved it, make a plea and a case for it down below, and I might be willing to give it another chance. There was a huge turnoff for me in this, and I mentioned it in the other video, so just go ahead and watch that if you are interested. But yes, I could be talked into giving this book another try. So if you think I should, let me know in the comments down below. Next up was probably my favorite book I've read in a while, and that is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This again was mentioned in the previous video. This is a 5-star read. This is a Russian-inspired fairy tale story. It does have a primarily Rumpelstiltskin storyline, but there are also other Russian folklore stories woven within this story. It does take place in the same world as Uprooted, and I loved this. I hope Naomi Novik continues to write in this world that includes the wood and everything from Uprooted. I really just love it so much. There's so much that I want to know about this world that I would write anything she wrote in this world. The characters, as always, were amazing. The way she ties in all of the fairy tale elements were beautifully done. Like, this is probably my favorite read of the year thus far. And it's definitely in my top 10 of the year, if not number 1 for the year. So yeah, go read that one if you haven't. Next up is a smutty romance palette cleanser, and that is Sins of the Night by Sherilyn Kenyon. This again takes place in her Dark Hunter series. This one, I really liked the characters that we'd followed. So usually with these, I get attached to the characters once the world is established, and you always learn a little bit more about the world in each one. That's kind of formulaically how these smutty romance paranormal worlds go. So you end up getting attached to characters along the way as you explore the world, and it's wonderful. I really enjoyed this one. If you have not tried the Dark Hunter series, it's one that took me forever to finally give a try, and I'm so glad I did. So definitely go and check it out. I think Kenyon's writing less obnoxious than a lot of smutty romance writers, so I can applaud her for that. It was really good. I think I give this one either a 3.5 or a 4 stars, and that's about what all of these get from me. These are pure, like, enjoyment level reads. They're not the best writing in the world, but I do enjoy Kenyon's world building in this series overall, so definitely check that one out. Next up is a book I finished just yesterday, and that is The Good Luck Charm by Helena Hunting. This is a romance story featuring a second chance couple. This couple were the big item in high school, and then when our main male protagonist, Ethan, gets drafted into the NHL, he breaks up with Lila. They run into each other 8 years down the road. There are still sparks, and Ethan's been off his game ever since he lost Lila. And so now that Lila's back in his life, he's playing well again. So is she just his good luck charm, or is she more? It's a really interesting exploration on how you can lose yourself in relationships, you know, both male and female, and it's a really interesting exploration. So I do recommend picking this up. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. Next up is what I was calling Sybil's Secret, but I found out later was actually pronounced Kybella's Secret. So in Kybella's Secret, we pick up years down the road after the conclusion of Wildwood Dancing, because this is a sequel to Wildwood Dancing, and this was really fun. Marilla's writing is always great. I love how she ties in all of her fae elements. This is the easiest description of it. An ancient artifact, a perilous quest, a trail of magical signs, a startling love triangle. So yes, this does fall into that love triangle trope. There is another trope in this besides the love triangle that I wasn't a huge fan of, just because I don't like what it does in speaking for women, and I could get into a more detailed description of this, but I would need to do a pretty spoilery discussion. So if you are interested in that, let me know in the comments down below. But with Kybella's Secret, I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really did enjoy it, so I highly recommend picking up Wildwood Dancing and Kybella's Secret if you are interested or you like Juliet Marillier's writing. Kat, do you have to use that as a scratching post right now? That one too? Really? My cats are butts. And the last book for this wrap-up, the rest will be manga, is going to be Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. Yes, I immediately continued on. When it comes to Clockwork Angel, I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. This has been my favorite Cassandra Clare book I've read thus far. So I think it's proving true that her writing truly does continue to improve as these books go on. I like the world well enough. I did like the steampunk elements in this one, so that might have been why it got a slightly higher rating than the Mortal Instruments series. But I did like our characters of Tessa, Will, and Jem. I felt like their dynamic together was really interesting to read, and I will be continuing on to the next book. I've decided to read these in Cassandra Clare's choice of order to read them, so I will read the complete Infernal Devices series before I go and finish the Mortal Instruments series. I know some people say you shouldn't do that, but if the author's recommending I read it that way, I think I'm going to do that. Alright friends, so that is it for the actual books. Now we're going to dig into the manga. There's quite a bit here, because the Viz Media sale was going on at Barnes & Noble. It's actually still going on till the 31st. I did ask them how long that was going on. So if you need to catch up on Viz Media titles, like, now's the time to go to Barnes & Noble and pick them up, because they're buy 2, get the 3rd free, and most Viz Media titles run about $10. So also if you're a Barnes & Noble member, you're getting each individual volume for $9, but you're getting one free for every 3rd. So you'll pay $18 for 3 titles, so you're averaging $6 a title, and it's definitely worth checking out. So definitely go to your local Barnes & Noble if you're needing to stock up on some titles. So I'm going to do these in groupings of series first, and then individual titles that I only have 1 volume that I read in this 2-week period. But it's a lot, so let's go. So first up, I've got the first 3 volumes of Bakuman. Bakuman is one that's really popular here on BookTube. This is a series written by the same gentleman who wrote Death Note, and this is all about becoming a mangaka. So these 2 young middle school / high school age boys are looking to create their own successful manga, and this is kind of about their journey. And there's a little bit of love thrown into it as well, but it's primarily focused on becoming mangaka. This is a really fun series. I've been enjoying my read of it thus far. I really like our characters. They're very easy to love, and I really am rooting for them to make a successful series and that their lives work out how they want it to. Usually in manga, that's not how it works, so I'm still hopeful for my babies that they'll get what they want in the end. Next up on this list are the next 3 volumes of The Water Dragon's Bride. So this series is one that I have absolutely fallen in love with this year. This gives me, it's a good combination of Kami-sama Kiss and Ancient Magus Bride. So you have this older godlike character and a young girl who ends up sacrificed to him. And it's about their journey in getting to know each other because she was sacrificed to be his bride. So there's 2 more volumes left to come out in this series, so I am current on this series, but I have really been enjoying this. I feel like with each volume I get more attached to our characters, to the world, to the stories. Definitely go and check these out. I've really enjoyed them. Next up is kind of a wild card series that I decided to try out because I was picking up other Viz Media titles, but they didn't have the next one in that series. So I picked up the first one in the series and then ended up deciding to continue on. So that is Takane and Hana. This is the trope of successful older businessman gets set up with a marriage meeting. The girl doesn't want to go on the marriage meeting and sends her younger sister. What ends up happening is sparks fly at that point, and things kind of go from there. These 2 have the sassiest of sassy banter. They love to tease each other, but you can genuinely tell they care about each other. This is fun, lighthearted, fluffy manga at its best. I really have been enjoying it so far. I've only found these 3 titles so far. I think there's a 4th volume out, but my Barnes & Noble didn't have it, so I'll be tracking down the rest of this series because I do think it's worth a read. It's really fun. If you like light and fluffy, this is perfect for you. Speaking of light and fluffy manga, I picked up the first 4 volumes of Kami-sama Kiss. Now this is one that I had only consumed in the anime form until recently. I recently started to pick up the titles with this Viz Media sale going on because, you know, it's just one that's a backlist title, so I haven't actually gotten around to purchasing it and adding it to my collection. But this is a story about a young teenage girl who ends up getting the powers of a kami, or a god, passed on to her, and about the adventure she has with her fox Shinshin, which is like her fox servant. His name is Tomoe, and he's sassy as all get out. And he's actually a fox demon who was made a Shinshin. Anyways, this is a really interesting, really fun little story. It's light, it's fluffy, it makes my heart happy, and I can't say much more about it. All of these have ranged between 4 and 5 stars for me. They're just fun. I purely rate them on my enjoyment level, and the art style is lovely as well. So if you have not tried Kami-sama Kiss and you're looking for something just kind of fluffy and cute, Kami-sama Kiss is a great one for that. Okay, now we're down to the 3 titles where I only have 1 volume that I read in this particular bit, but I know it's a lot. I've just been kind of on a manga binge lately, and I think it just comes from that hiatus I took where I wasn't really reading any, and so now I feel like I'm making up for lost time or something, I don't know. But I was reading my other books slower, so it's really easy for me to throw a volume of manga in between, and so that ended up working out really well for me. So first up, we'll do a series that I continued on in, and then I've got 2 where I got the first issue, like the first volume of each series. So I have volume 4 of Overlord here. I ended up picking this up because I was ready to continue on in the series. This is a series based in a video game where you're following the villain Overlord as opposed to like a hero type character. It's really fun, really sassy, but it also has some dark and gritty things going on in it, so it's really interesting. If you've been interested by this one at all, I definitely recommend picking it up. Next up, let's go back to something light and fluffy for a minute, and so we'll go with Hatsuharu. This one is by Shizuki Fujisawa. This is about a young man who kind of has all the girls throwing themselves at him. He's, you know, the good-looking guy at school, and all of a sudden he gets beat up by this kind of tomboy girl because he had hurt her friend. He finds himself having feelings for her and not really being interested in any of the other girls who want his attention because this girl doesn't. So it falls into that trope where now he wants to chase her and be in a relationship with her, and it's just really cute and fluffy. I kind of like being from a guy's perspective for a minute in a fluffy kind of story because it's primarily females that we follow in that vein, but yes, this is it's really cute and really fun. This is a newer title publishing right now, so This was one that I just saw on an end table and picked up on a whim before I found out about the Viz Media sale, and really enjoyed it. And next up is another backlist title that I hadn't gotten around to yet, and that is Assassination Classroom Volume 1. So in Assassination Classroom, we are essentially following this alien type character who's got like octopus legs. He has no idea, we have no idea how many tentacles he has. But he is the teacher in a classroom, and the motivation for all the students in the classroom is to kill him. They will be paid $10 billion if they do so. So this is a series that I definitely am going to be continuing on in. This first volume was not anything that I was expecting it to be. It had much more heart than I was expecting. I actually like our alien teacher type character, and the whole way all of this goes down is really interesting. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be continuing on with Assassination Classroom. I have not been spoiled for this series at this point, so I'm actually really excited to be working on a backlist title that I know nothing about, and it's been really fun so far, so I'm really looking forward to continuing on. Okay, friends, that's the end. That is all that I've read in the second half of the month of July. Again, I will leave linked the previous wrap-up and any reviews or anything that I mentioned in this video as well. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. Oh, by the way, I buddy read Kybella's Secret with April over at April Sarah. As always, if you're not subscribed to her, you should be. She will also be linked down below or in the card symbol as well. If you're new here, hi, I'm Shay. Welcome. Thanks for hanging out with me. I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and hit the little bell icon so you know when to come hang out with me. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you in the comments. Bye.